This podcast is rated E for explicit. Dear love interests, I just finished a love language assessment. The results begs the question, are you a good investment? The acts of service I sometimes want to give is an order from the court barring you from where I live. But then, in an attempt to manipulate me, you buy a fancy car with a tracker underneath, which I thought was to find me in these streets. But upon looking at these receipts, I see that your motives were not clear. I left the gift you bought me parked where I cut my hair. You should have checked your car, because I've been tracking you too, dear. Since you love receiving gifts, I left one underneath your seat. The next time you try to con me, make sure the job is complete. Dear love interests, I spoke in as many love languages as I could, but it appears none of them did us any good. But then I found a language you would surely understand. I call it acts of fear. I hope it makes you a better man. You met me in the midst of many things. Shedding skin, sprout wings, looking at life as a spiritual being through a human lens, having conversations with God about so many things. This show is your invitation. The poet God is the conversation. The most popular episodes in our history are entirely no mystery, because we love talking about relationships, love, sex, and the challenges we experience with all of the above. And because, dear love interests, insert name, I'll keep you guessing about who inspires these poems of shame. But let me get back on track. I'm pleased to announce that the board is back. They've been tested, and we are going to discuss the languages of love they speak, because in the world of love languages, the sentences aren't always complete, and on the bridge of communication, that could only lead to defeat. So as we explored all of the love languages that are listed, I wanted to know what happens when they get twisted. We began this conversation discussing what the results of the love language test helped us realize. And I wondered, was anyone surprised?
For me, they weren't surprising. And I think because part of it too, because I have children. And so I kind of actually made it a point to find out what their love language was before I try to discover what mine was.
Really?
Because I realized that if mine wasn't being met at times, so I wanted to make sure that as far as in my children, that I was giving them the love language that they said, oh, okay, I know mom loves me because she spent this time, because both of my kids are quality time. Both of them.
Interesting.
And so I tried to make it a point so that they would understand, like, so it wasn't where mom, and I'm like, hey, leave me, let me do this. I knew I needed to kind of spend some time with them.
Right.
And then I could go do what I needed to do.
Right.
Because then they would be like, oh, okay, I got my time. She spent some time with me. I'm good. And they could then entertain themselves a little while. But then I started delving into, I think, mine a little more.
Interesting. Because I haven't...
But I actually have the book for kids. I don't even have the book for adults.
I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah, I honestly, I've always thought about love language has to do with like relationships, like, romantic relationships.
I didn't think
and so
about
the
the
idea
kids.
that you're applying it to that, I mean, I think that's awesome because I think it's super smart. But I just never thought of it that way at all.
Neither have I. What about you?
I wasn't aware of mine, but as after I read the book, it made me kind of get me like those aha moments. Like, okay, now I get why. You know what I mean? Like,
So like when you look through the headings, like acts of service didn't click.
it's not. I never really thought about. You know what I mean? I never thought about like, well, what makes me? You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like, but like I said, it made sense though. You know, like okay, I get why. I like this particular one, but after doing the test, like I said, I didn't even realize it was quality time, to be real with you. I would have thought it was probably acts of service or something like that.
That's what I would have thought.
But
I think it's funny though, because I do think that the idea of love language is still a new kind of concept for a lot of people. And so just like you're saying, you probably never thought of it before, like, how to define that, and I wasn't surprised by mine as much as I was surprised by this last test. I thought the test was a little bit more rigid, because I know I'm a quality time more type of guy, but it actually has me listed as more of a physical touch.
I agree with Calvin because I think most people aren't aware of that, what love language is. So when we start talking about it, people for the first time, they're like, what is that? What is that? What are you referring to? Is this relationship related? And so for me, I think because I did it a number of years ago, I think at work, we did an exercise at work. That's where it became eye-opening for me because I was unaware of the different options out there. I kind of was aware of the physical touch thing, but I wasn't aware that was what it was for me.
Oh,
even though I did it, but it wasn't a conscious thing.
That this is what my thing is.
Until I took the test. I'm like, oh, this makes sense.
So did your coworkers have a similar thing, or did y'all do it together? Was it like a group?
It was a coworker. Yeah, I can't remember exactly why we did it, or I think it was for one of the affinity groups exercise that we did. Yeah, I think that's what we did it for. And then we had somebody come in to actually speak on it, who had actually won the books and talked about different and break it down. And so they gave us a test at the end and everybody kind of shared your test if you wanted to. So yeah, it was an eye-opening thing as far as the first one made sense. The second one, this last time I think I did, it was quality time. But for me, I think they go hand in hand for me. The physical touch and quality time for me, they're kind of close for me. Even though some people maybe physical touch and there may be something else. But yeah, but it helps, and it understanding yourself, and I think it's going to help you kind of focus in on yourself.
Right.
I was just thinking back to what Lonnie said about, how she was thinking about the love language that is applied to her children. And I realized just through thinking through this, I've been doing that with my friends for quite some time, where I really spend a lot of time evaluating what's going to make them happy.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I react to that. And I just realized that, what concept you've been doing, I've been doing for years. I just never thought of it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's never been like labeled.
Yeah, and I think it's a supplement for kind of like you said, helps you figure out friends, family, love. So it is a relationship thing, but not necessarily just a love relationship, just people that are in your circle, period. And because I think we sometimes have a tendency, the hard thing to me with relationships and applying it to relationships is I think people have a tendency to project the love language that they are and not necessarily the love language of your partner. Because that's where, like, my spouse and I, we took the test. But he's physical touch. Okay, well, my physical touch is maybe like, what, number 4? I think number 3 or number 4, I think, on my list.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. But quality time is my number 1. So the problem I have sometimes is trying to get him to see that, okay, I can do the physical touch thing, but that's meeting maybe what you need to fill up your tank, but I'm not getting the quality time over here necessarily to fill up mine sometime. So I try and, interject, hey, well, let's do this. And sometimes because quality time is you want undivided attention for whatever that 5, 10, 15 minutes of your time I get. Mm-hmm. And so, sometimes, because if you're talking to me and you're messing with your phone, if you're talking to me, you're doing, that's not
quality time.
That's not quality time.
Yeah.
So I think it should be a supplement, especially in relationships, to help you see that what I need maybe, or at least to kind of, it's not going to be the end all be all, but, try and do what your significant other or what it is they need, not necessarily. And he doesn't do it, I don't think, out of, not trying to give it to you, but it's just that, physical touch is what I am, and that's what is comfortable for me, and I can do that easily. Trying to do a love language that's not necessarily yours to appeal to somebody else, that's kind of hard. It's difficult.
It takes practice, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something triggered something to me when she was talking about with her husband. And I because sometimes when I'm with people and we're spending time together and we're supposed to be spending time together and people on their phone, mentally it triggers me. And I'm like, why? And I'm like, I haven't said anything, but I'm like, in my mind, it's like, why are you doing that? Yeah. But putting it all together now, because quality time is my number 2.
Is your number 2.
So that kind of stuff, whether it's in a relationship or not, just be friends or whoever hanging out. Right. For me, quality time is quality time. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if it's a relationship or not. So it triggers me when they're doing something else. So I didn't think about it until you mentioned it. Yeah. It makes sense.
I was going to ask you, before you and your partner took the love language test, were you surprised by their results, or did you guess that that's what it might have been?
I actually thought it might have been acts of service because he's a shower of things. It's like fixing things, but then that also could be, that's how men operate though too. So maybe that was why I assumed it was going to be, but I actually thought it was going to be more acts of service than when it came out physical touch. But it's because he likes, but that's a quality I think for most men, is it not? That y'all kind of, some of y'all are into like, if there's an issue or a problem that comes across, let me figure out how I can fix it.
Not as a main, not as a main. Mine was like supplementary. You know what I mean? Like, okay. Like supplementary, I would do that, but not as like a main. I'm not gonna, like, I think that this is the only way that I'm like get at this person is acts of service. I just know that that's just a nice thing to do in general.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That kind of, so that did throw me as far as a love language, because I really thought it was going to be acts of service. So then when it was physical touch, I was like,
I think a lot more men are physical touch than you probably think, because I do think a lot of men really want to be touched. They just, I'm always talking about how society has shaped all of us, and there's a story they were told. But I don't think that all of us believe it, or that is actually true for all of us. Many men, like to be hugged. Many men actually like to, you just sit there with their shoulder next to them, right? I feel like we feel a little guilty or feel a little less manly doing it, but I don't really think there should be any stigma on that, because and obviously from what we're saying, several of us have physical touch as our number one thing.
And I think it ends up being close, like, yours are close as far as physical touch and quality time, very close. Yours are close, very physical touch and quality time. So I think it has a tendency to be very close. Now, my sons, I think, are very close as well, because like he'll hug me like 3 times before he leaves, and so, but I thought when I did the test, so his, I think, are very close as well. So I think, like you said, it's for a lot of men, it's very, now, let me see I'm trying to remember where quality time, we're on like opposite ends of the spectrum, because quality time is my number 1. Quality time, I think, was his 4.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. Gotcha.
So so I'm like in an uphill battle trying to, trying to get it clarified as to what quality time actually does mean to me, and maybe Gary, having said that, maybe I need to spend a little bit more time explaining how I see quality time.
Very true.
Maybe I'm assuming that he understands what that means. And maybe I need to spend a little bit more time explaining what that quality time means to me.
An example that I had when I was thinking about these questions from this last quiz is that the quality time questions there were like, you don't want any other distractions. And I don't feel like that is necessarily true for me. Me being on the couch, sitting there with you and with you on your phone is perfectly fine for me because you're not out doing something else. Right. It is the idea of spending time together. Right. And sometimes the phones are important because we show things to each other. Hey, have you seen this article? Hey, let me show you this picture. So that's why I've totally decoupled things like being on your phone or whatever separate from us spending time together, because we actually do share a lot.
And I think there is a difference between being on your phone and being so on it that the other person may as well not be there, or being on your phone and engaging the other person and whatever it is that you're doing.
Very true.
Yeah. So I think that's what you probably were kind of more speaking to.
Yes.
But I do think that communication is it. Because if whatever your expectation is or whatever your need is, sometimes you do have to just straight up say it out. Because I was talking to a friend of mine a couple months ago, and he was saying that his partner was always complaining that he didn't do certain things. And I was like, well, maybe you need to just do those things. I mean, because he's telling you exactly what he wants. Right. So why are you resistant to it? Right.
Dante, did you and your wife do the love language test? Were there any surprising things going on there?
I did. She did it a while ago. I forgot what her results were. Man, she gonna get at me for that. I already know. But she did it so long ago. Like, and I just did mine. But yeah, we did. Like I said, I did mine. Like I said, I read the book this week, and like I said, I just did the test. So
I'm just so ashamed of you that you forgot.
Well, you know what? I feel like for me, I don't know what it is, but I don't know what the test says, but I know what affects her.
Gotcha.
You get what I'm saying? So like that part I do know, but the official test part, that part I know. But
the main thing.
Yeah, like, you know,
right.
And I know that it is like quality time. You know what I mean? So, but like you said, quality time is different because for us, like I would say the most common form of quality time for us, I'll be in my game, like on here, and she will be watching TV in the other room, and we're still like engaging, talking, and like enjoying each other's time. Like it's like peaceful, something about that. Like, but like you said, it depends on how engaged we are with what we're doing. Like, so the fact that we can still hold a conversation and really be still intent in doing our thing, I think that's why we're able to, you know, instead of us like just sitting here looking at each other constantly for 15, 20 minutes, like, we don't need to do that.
But I think,
just let me know that you listen.
Like, get out of my face.
I think quality time, like you said, it's like anything in your relationships with someone. It's what you make it and what appeals to both of you.
Yeah.
Because like I said, some of those things that they listed for, I think I went and read like, examples of quality time, and some of them I'm like, so it depends. And like you said, and I guess if we were sitting on the phone and we're engaging in what we're talking about, but that doesn't happen a lot. So that's why I think being on the phone
that makes total sense. Right.
So I'm like, put the phone down, because you're zoned into something maybe that you're not sharing. So then that makes a big difference. But yeah, if it was a sharing, then I could understand that. That to me would make sense.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey guys, I'm Joseph, a member of the board, which is what Akil refers to as his community of friends and supporters.
We all have something valuable to give, and sometimes it's as simple as giving someone else a reason to live.
On behalf of all the board members, I want to thank you for listening to our podcast. Akil's success is our success, and we want you to be a part of the community we are building.
It's not enough. It's not enough.
Because you are the very foundation we must build it on.
It's not enough to tell people that they matter. We have to show them. Like my friends showed me.
So tell a friend, leave a review, and keep in touch. We want to hear from you because it all matters. Just as you do.
like your partner, past or present, mastered your love language?
Absolutely not. Okay, let's just go there. No, I mean, I was definitely in relationships that they were built on a premise of, hey, we're going to be partners. We're buying a house together. I'm going to take care of your child as my own, blah, 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 blah. But what it ended up being was that all of the stuff that I was doing to recognize this is what you need, I was getting none of that back. There was no recognition of what I need. I felt like I was simply taking over somebody's responsibilities and left alone.
Abandoned.
Because even living with somebody and you're not getting any of your own needs met, but you're meeting at least the majority of theirs, it still feels very lonely.
Very true. Yeah. You have to kind of treat it like almost, I see it as like two sides of the street. When you're on this side, you have to do it. You know what I mean? You have to let go of, this is what I want. This is how I normally do it. And tell me about your world. And that's what I'm going to do while I'm on this side. When it's time to express that side of that love language. But I think one thing I noticed was that there's a lot of ignorance going on with it. You know what I mean? Not in a bad way. It's just like we don't know. Like I said, when you don't know about this kind of stuff, man, it's really hard to like tackle it. You know what I mean? It's like something's wrong, but I don't know how to like pinpoint it. But this definitely helps you pinpoint certain aspects of relationships, that's what I like about the whole concept.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what your answer was to that, as far as the mastery of your.
Oh, it's she has, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but once again, though.
That was actually a pretty confident statement. Yeah, she has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, though.
I kind of felt like how you was talking downstairs, like, oh, yeah, I kind of, because y'all like, absolutely not. Like, yeah, she kind of, but once again, we had to do self-reflection. So in order to do love language, I feel like who's able to really identify off gate? You know, we're not really taught to really ever go into like ourselves like that. So like the reason I think she's able to do it now is because of all the introspection she did for herself and vice versa for me. You know, like so I was able to tell her, you know, and we're kind of able to reflect. Hey, I noticed that back in the day, whenever I did this, you know, so we did a lot of stuff. It took that for her to reach that level. Like, but before, I don't think either one of us was.
So as we discussed and sexually speaking, you know, you guys went through this major evolution, transformation in your relationship. So if you haven't already heard Sexually Speaking Season 4, Episode 5, Dante spoke about the ups and downs of his marriage and everything it took to be where they are now, which is what you currently hear me referring to. And if you thought I was throwing shade earlier when I told him I thought his predominant love language was acts of service, yep, I was. It's kind of a running joke. You would have to listen to the Sexually Speaking episode to understand. Anyway, let's continue. Honing in on each other's love languages, did a lot of that happen recently?
Yes. That's how we got to the point where we are now. Like I said, before it was just kind of hit and miss. Like, dang, I'm doing like, what's going on? You know, like before, but now it's everything feels a lot clearer. You know what I mean? So.
That's good. I think you have to. I heard somebody else was listening to something, and they said something in it. I was like, you have to, I think, be willing to be a master of the person that you're in the relationship with. You have to be willing to kind of study and take the time to study and know that person. And because you think about it, like you master your job, you master if you're into a sport or something, you're going to master and figure out how to be a perfectionist or how to, you know, be the best at that sport. But we don't do that when it comes to relationships.
It's all assumptions.
And it is. And we don't do that. But I think,
or it's about please me.
Exactly. But I think once you get into a relationship, then, and one that I guess you want to cultivate and you want to grow, then I think that's what you have to, but you have to have both people that are willing to do that, you know. Very true. That's why I said I applaud you all for getting to a point where you're like, hey, we need to do this. We value each other and we want to, I guess, value what we bring into the relationship and, you know, everything. So we're going to take the time not only to self-assess, but to also become a master of the person that you're in the relationship with so you can, you know, open it a little bit more. So I think you all just have opened and blossomed into probably just leaps and bounds of where you ever thought you would be because you took the time to do that. but it has to be a two-way street.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
A two-way street.
I think sometimes people just, well, we talk about relationship, but I think sometimes people just want to be in a relationship just because. And love, those kind of things are back burner things. You never focus on that. I'm just focusing because I want to be in a relationship right now. So to be clear about love languages, which is probably should be something you should be focused on, I think sometimes people are just happy with just the fact of the relationship.
The status of it.
And everything else, how to cultivate and build it, is not even...
As married now. That's sorry. I have to.
That's a perfect example.
Wow.
That's a perfect example.
Are you going to be able to finish your thought now?
It's gone.
Sorry.
No, that's great. No,
but that's real.
I
That is
want
very
you
true.
to finish that. I was really into it.
I was on something that he threw me off. I don't know where it was. I don't even know
How
where
people
it was
just want
now.
that status. Like,
No, but I think that I get your point is that, people really focus in on the fact that they're just super happy that they're in something that they're not really thinking about, is this something that's going to be long term? How do I make it last? What kind of effect am I having on this person? What can I do for them? What can they do for me? Blah, blah. I get it.
Yeah, very true. The responsibility of the whole relationship gets overlooked by just, because I knew a lady who said, like, I want to be married, by 36. Like, she had a fiance, and I'm thinking, like, if you really wanted to be with him, you would have said his name. Like, I can, me and so and so are going to get married.
Right.
I want to be married. She just said, I want to be married. So in my eyes, like I said, I pictured her with a blank face, groom with her holding, her dress and whatnot.
It's funny you say that, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that's tied into, what you learn when you're young, or what, the dreams you make, or the dreams that are put into you. I even remember, chatting with my mom about that, because I was like always upset when she's like, well, I need to have a man and this, and I was thinking, for what though? I mean, like, and that was me being a teenager. I'm like, you a strong enough woman? But I realized a lot of that came from the fact that, her generation, that was part of the success, factors, right?
For a female too,
right.
Definitely.
And, but I also do feel like she did feel a little bit lonely at times. And especially being, a single mom with 3 kids, we couldn't fulfill all her needs, right? As much as she loves us, there are some things that we can't do, right? Mm-hmm. So I really learned to try to understand that, okay, this is something that I shouldn't really be so judgmental about, right? Mm-hmm. And I realized that, especially when she got with her husband, they've been married for almost 30 years now. It really wasn't just, I need a man. It was, I need the right man. And I think that's what I kind of discovered too.
The right man.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like your partner used something they know you like to smooth something over they know that you did not like? Should this be considered an act of love or an attempt to manipulate you? I brought this scenario to the board. Let's see how they feel about it. In researching love languages for the show, one of the things that I was thinking about was how they could perhaps be manipulated. And so what I was thinking about is, in a scenario where your partner is a serial cheater, right? And they know that your love language is receiving gifts. Should a purchase of a new car or some other extravagant gift be seen as an act of love or manipulation?
It depends on who's coming from and the person's thought process. So you're talking about a cheater who knows they're a cheater, and their partner's love language is gifts. Now, the gift they're giving to their partner, that person is feeling affirmed by the gift. Mm-hmm. They have no reason to feel any ulterior motive that the gift is not genuine. Mm-hmm. The person, the cheater, he or she has motives of fulfilling this person. So I give them the gift, I'm not going to be bothered. So I can go ahead and continue cheating because I'm fulfilling their love language of the gift. So they're not going to bother me.
Right.
They're not going to ask me any questions about where I'm going and stuff because I'm giving them gifts. I'm meeting their love language need. Mm-hmm. So it is manipulative from the person who is giving the gifts.
Right. I would think so. And this question came from a real life situation, and the individual in question felt triggered in both ways. They loved the gift because it was well needed, obviously. But at the same time, they're like, this motherfucker, you know? And so, and I felt bad for them because they were really genuinely torn about it. And so I just wondered what y'all would do, how y'all would, you know, see that.
So the person knew the person was a cheater.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought
that's new for me too.
I didn't know
I was assuming that they didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know that part.
Yes.
So it's different.
So they know that they were
Oh, so I figured that's different.
They're both complacent at that point, right? Well, they're both
complacence. I don't know if maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, but I was looking at it more of, if you don't know, then you can be very well affirmed and, oh my God, they're giving me a gift. I love them. Thank you very much. But now that they know, you are conflicted because you know that this is maybe a cover up gift. You know, it's that thing, you know, it's like, hey honey, I brought you flowers. Why are you bringing me flowers? Right. Yeah. Did you cheat again? Oh, and I love these flowers. Right. You know, so, you know, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. I mean,
to me, you're not conflicted. You're in denial.
Yeah. Ooh, selling yourself short.
I mean, you're really in denial, because you've become so engrossed in the gifts and what he's bringing you, but you've allowed him to disrespect you as his partner, his wife, whatever your circumstances. So it's like, really, you're selling yourself, like you say, you selling yourself short, but yeah, that's denial to me. If you know it, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, if you don't know, then oh yeah, that's so meaningful, that's so sweet. But now if you know, yeah, you're in denial, because if you know this is why these gifts are coming your way, then yeah, you're in big denial, and I think eventually you're going to end up really putting a torch to that car eventually, you know, or something. Because I mean, and when you finally realized how, you know, just
what it represents.
I couldn't be. And knowing, I don't care what my love language was. Knowing that that's what's going on. Oh, we got problems.
Yeah, because every time you see the gift,
so you're coming on a point I wanted to make. Is that, does that change what your love language is? Where now that this pattern, you've been conditioned to the fact that now you're getting gifts, that there's actually something negative attached to it. Does it change what your love language is? Because that's what, as I was listening to this, I was thinking that will have some kind of psychological effect over time, right? And I do wonder, are you still happy with getting gifts, like even from some other people, right? Or does that really make you get triggered every time you get a gift now?
Yeah, make you suspicious or make you like not trustworthy. Yeah, it kind of takes away that joy you used to get.
I don't have an answer for that, but it makes me think, because the human brain, we adjust to what happens around us.
It's true.
Because I'm not, gift giving was last on my list as far as a love language is concerned. But now I do appreciate if I get a gift that one seemed to have put a lot of thought into it, as far as something that would mean something to me, then yes, I'm going to appreciate that gift. But that's why I said, if gift giving is at the top, then you might be a little gold digger. If gift giving is like, oh, that's my top one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the gifts can be something like just a flower, or hey, here's some candy I brought from you. Stuff that really, I feel like I had to rationalize that too, because it was more of like, I felt like it was really about these little tokens, right? That just said, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you. That's the way I rationalize it. It could be the gold digger thing, but I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as small.
Mine went to where Yolanda did.
Yeah. Because so that story I was telling you earlier about the friend who was having problems, the partner wanted, like, can bring me something, bring me a gift, when you come to dinner, bring me a bottle of wine that I'm going to like. Those types of things that he was not doing, right? And he was like, why do I need to do that? I love you, right? And he was not trying to match up with the love language.
Gotcha.
Which is why people always talking about love is an action word. And how do I know what you're not showing?
Yeah.
But how do you know what I'm not? I guess if you don't know what I'm identifying as love.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, and it goes back to that earlier thing about communications, because some stuff you can see, You can see how people react to certain things, but some things, you're right. You have to be told that this is something that's important to me. And I feel like, people are made to feel guilty when they don't know. But if you're not showing signs, you're not giving me any reason to understand that that's what you need, then how can you blame me?
Yeah.
I'm not a mind reader, right? That kind of feeling. And that I can say that from experience.
Yeah.
So, Lonnie, you talked about your partner not recognizing or mastering your love language. What do you think that the failure was?
Just from maybe just like you said, just people don't realize that that's a real thing.
A lack of awareness?
Yeah. Just from understanding that, oh, okay, maybe people identify love in different ways. And I think that's the thing. But just having this conversation today, I'm going to make it a point to be a little bit more direct, because like you said, I know he can't read my mind. I know that, but I do at times say, but it comes off maybe more as a complaint of what you're not doing, as opposed to maybe saying, hey, I would really like if you would do this, or maybe not, not be on your phone when we're talking or when we're sitting down. And so I think maybe I will try and be a little bit more direct as to what I mean by quality time. But because I think a lot of people have their own interpretation, like, of what quality time is. But if we're sitting together and watching a movie or something, some people may say, well, that's quality time because we're together.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not quality time to me because I'm a talker. So I don't want to sit and watch a movie because there's no conversation that's going to be had pretty much about, us, unless we're sitting and we stop and we reflect maybe afterwards and say, oh, what do you think that was meant by this? But just to sit and watch, a movie is not quality time. So quality time to me is not, like you said, just sitting long as we're in a room together. No, quality time is us maybe in the room and either maybe we're playing something, maybe we're doing a game or something like that. But most of the time it involves some type of conversation.
Right. No, and just, reading all of these articles in reference to the love languages and what they mean, and how what Calvin referred to earlier about how they can shift depending on the experiences that you go through with people and the events that occur. I was thinking about birthdays and how traditionally birthdays for me hasn't really been a thing. It's only in recent years with us that I've enjoyed them because it's not fake. It doesn't feel like some sort of obligatory event. It's like a setup.
Right.
Like we're gonna do this on this day because we're supposed to. All that, and I just even when I was on the receiving end of it, I didn't enjoy it, and so to the point now where I've been intentional about taking it off of places like Facebook, because I don't want that whole barrage of messages saying happy birthday from people that I don't even know. Don't talk to me. Like, save that for somebody else, because it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't mean anything to you either.
Right.
So I don't know why you're taking this time to say it.
Right.
So I just am not interested in that experience. If I'm going to have something that happens around that, first of all, I don't care about the day per se anyway. I care about the overall sentiment that you're trying to share, regardless of what day it is. I'm not sure what that says specifically about my particular love language in that way, but I do know that there has to be a lot of nuances in how these things materialize and the meaning that we put into them, giving and receiving. And I think I understand better what that looks like for me. That it has to be something that is intentional and filled with meaning for me to feel like I'm going to receive it on that level as well. Otherwise, I'm not interested.
What was your top love language?
That's a good question. It was a close...
words of affirmation?
Tyler C.
Acts of service?
Okay, so it is... The top one is...
So while I look that up, let's listen to some tales trailers tell, and some ads I reckon are quite swell. Have you ever felt like traditional or religious ideas surrounding monogamy or marriage are out of date or unrealistic? Well, you're not alone in that.
We started really defining what our marriage was to us, as
Right.
opposed to like, hey, you got a ring, so that means
Right.
he's got some. I've seen people with these MacGuffins of marriage of love, right? That's what I'm gonna call it, right? You're like, you got the ring, you got this, and they still dishonor it.
After watching Showtime's The Affair and Netflix's Sex Life, I was like, who can I talk to about this? And I thought my friend Dante, who's married with children, would be the perfect person to have this conversation with. Hey Dante, do you remember that question that I asked you?
Yeah, I got that on deck. Because I've been watching a series called The Affair that's been interesting on many levels. Have you ever felt like traditional/religious ideas of monogamy are outdated or out of step with the needs of humanity?
Yeah, I know it's a heavy question.
Nah, I was like,
And apparently, he thought so too.
finally, somebody going to ask me this question.
So guess what? That's just what we're about to do. Listen to Sexually Speaking, Season 4, Episode 5. And after you follow the Poet God podcast on your favorite podcasting app, a quick search of the Poet God on Twitter and Instagram will connect you to just what we have on tap. And if you're not that social, at thepoetgod.com, we got your back. So now, what are my love languages again?
Quality time.
That is
Okay.
not surprising whatsoever.
Quality time. And the second was tied between acts of service and
okay.
physical touch.
Okay.
Those two were tied.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's kind of how that plays out.
Okay.
From that quiz, everything looked like there are very, very fine lines between these. And my problem with that quiz in general, and maybe other things like it, is that there's too fine a line. Like, for instance, we talked about quality time. Mine is almost a mix between quality time and physical touch. Us sitting on the couch next to each other, shoulder to shoulder.
Both your needs.
Shoulder to shoulder. We're not just sitting separately, but that is the nuance I'm talking about. It's not so
Right.
simple because I need the combination of certain things, not just one or the other. You know, say for instance, we're sitting and having dinner together, right? That's a good quality time. But I also love the idea of us bumping into each other as we're cooking dinner together, right? Yeah. You know, so there are nuances here that I don't really feel like we talked about.
It was treating us like we were basic.
Right, but I feel like it's not. I mean, whenever you try to categorize, it's hard.
Yeah.
But we didn't. You know, I don't know if we did our job well enough because we didn't talk about the fact that it really is.
Yeah, we should talk about the nuances.
Now, mine was, I noticed that yours and Gary's were very close. Mine was more of a distance. I was 37. My next one was 23.
Okay, got it.
I think that plays a part.
So mine is strictly more so quality time as opposed to that combination of maybe quality time and something, something a very close second. Mine was more so like, okay, your quality time is way over here all by itself.
If your number one and number two are close, that's where it overlaps. And it's going to make sense where you have a number one, but your number two is required for you to feel 100% together. As Lonnie was talking about, her number one is 31 and her number 37, and then her number two is 24. That's a big gap. So she doesn't need the number two to feel, quote unquote, whole, even though I don't like using that word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, we get you.
So I think because mine is 37 for physical touch, and then 31 for quality time. And so those are, and I know for me, it's both. As you said, sitting on a couch, somebody's all the way 5 feet away and I'm on the same couch, that doesn't do anything for me. It's not going to do anything for me. I have to be physically close to them, right, to be quality time to make sense for me. So that makes, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to imply that we need to be over there 24 hours a day. I don't really need that. But there is a level of touch, right? And I was thinking about the distance thing, and I have gift giving as my last. It's 0, but there's a huge gap between that. Yeah, I don't.
Mine's at 7%.
Yeah, no gifts. So like, but Lonnie made a great point earlier. It's when those gifts are made and they seem significant and they're about me. Mm-hmm. They're always welcome, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't really play a big impact in how I feel, right? Yeah. And so like if somebody gives me a bunch of gifts, I actually become more suspicious.
Oh, I give you a gift. Oh, wow. Can I take it back? Can I get that?
No.
Because I just gave you a gift recently.
But obviously,
so you're saying that?
Excuse me. Obviously, he's not listening because I said gifts that actually have a meaningful impact on my life that are meant and designed for me. Something that I specifically asked for is actually meaningful. No, you cannot get that back.
He's been trying to get that gift back since last week.
It's only because he has the same iPad.
Right.
Anyway, I just thought we needed to talk about nuance a bit because I really think that it's an important thing that people don't feel locked in, to something, right?
Looking at my results, I just, like you said, I feel like the test needs to be redesigned. They probably need to do several more questions or design the questions differently because
it depends on who gives the test. So this test is not so there's an industry standard type test, I think, as Lonnie was talking about, where you get choices. You get like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you select within that option.
I see.
This was more kind of a quick internet kind of a... They want to just get you quickly through the options.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, to be fair to this test, it really, it puts it in boxes for a reason. It is kind of a quick thing. And it's not meant to be so far reaching, right? Because really, when you have 5 distinct boxes, humans don't really live in boxes that easily. So but they try to put it. It gives you, at least it gives you a glimpse, right? And so you can actually react to that,
right?
But the way Calvin talked about nuances, they definitely needed it for the gift giving part. Because I'm gonna be honest, like I saw like they didn't describe it like the way you described it. Makes it like, oh, those gifts are nice. They are though, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the way that they said it made it seem like it was like, I want somebody to give me some, or I like when you it made it seem very superficial. You know what I mean? So if they described it in a better way, I might have chosen gift giving more over another section that, didn't really hold as much sway, but because of how the gift giving seemed on the questionnaire, I was like, no, I don't need that, because it made it feel superficial. And I know, like, I don't really care that much about it, but if someone was to give me like that, like a thoughtful gift, so I didn't even think about that till you said it. I was like, those are other kind of ways to give. My thing went immediate to like, flowers, food, PlayStation control, like just random stuff.
Now
I'd
take a PlayStation accessory if you want to give it to me.
Exactly. But see, that would have been a thoughtful gift, though.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I do think that there's a place for gift giving. A lot, and I do it too. I mean, after all, one year I showed up here with little stuffed animals for Valentine's Day. It wasn't about me trying to persuade anyone. It's more of like, this is a nice little thing. It's Valentine's Day. Somebody might like this.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like the cat.
Yeah. The reason I'm laughing is because one of those gifts were given to the cat as a toy.
And she enjoyed it.
That is funny.
But I mean, I do think that there is a lot to be said for that, because I realize with me being 0, it makes it sound like I never want gifts, and that's not really what it is. But it is not a consequential thing to me when it comes to how I my relationship with people.
Right.
Now, I have to admit though, I am a very big gift giver.
Now that is because the reason why I say that, because when I was reading a book, I noticed that whenever a couple like initially had a relationship, one would establish, like they would show the other person their love language, thinking that, hey, this is going to, because this is what I like, you're going to like. So it's weird that you say like that gift giving isn't like the main thing for you, but that's what you do. Because that was the general thing in the book. Every time, most of the times, it was the person displaying their love language, and they were like, why isn't that getting through?
Right.
Not realizing that their spouse or their partner had another whole another love language. So yeah, I'm curious about that. Like the fact that you say you are a big gift giver, but gift giving still doesn't impact you the same way as like the other one.
Because I do spend time trying to figure out what other people need. And I don't necessarily apply that to myself in terms of like, just because you need this doesn't mean I need this, right? Okay. But I do recognize that you do need it. That's what matters to me, because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is make you happy. And if this is something that I recognize makes you happy, I'm going to do it over and over and over again, because it means to me I'm at least contributing to your happiness. So that's my philosophy.
Gotcha.
I'm Akil Johnson, the Poet God. Thank you for listening.